Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. I'm your host, Victor, and on this podcast, we're usually going week to week, recapping and reviewing some TV show that we've been watching together. In today's episode, we'll be recapping the season finale, very eventful season finale of MobLand, the Paramount Plus, very successful, a Paramount Plus original series. As usual with these episodes, I am joined by Darren.
G'day there, Victor.
And we'll be discussing an episode called The Beast in Me. And this one, we actually hear the song, unlike all the other songs.
We hear the song.
Hear the actual song here twice, exactly. Twice. So to drive home the point that this is the theme of the season. And we don't hear that. I had in last week's episode mentioned that a lot of these songs are actually British artists. This song is indeed written by Nick Lowe, the famous British artist from the late 70s, early 80s. But this song was famously covered by Johnny Cash in the last of his American records, I think the year he passed away. And we hear the Johnny Cash version here. So that is Johnny Cash, of course, iconic vocals. And we hear it twice. So it is very important to, I guess, the themes of this episode, if not the entire season. Before we get to all that, here is my patented monthly viewing schedule for myself and hopefully introducing all of you to something to watch. It is June, Darren, so this is a poor month of previews to discuss here, but there's a few things that are on the agenda.
Is that right? Why is that? Is that your guys' summer, so everybody's out doing things or going to the movies or what?
It's the summer. There's a few things. So first of all, as you probably noticed, they had a very packed final week of May. May 31st is the last day to qualify for the Emmy Awards. So everything gets crammed in there. That's why everything is a binge in the last week, because all the episodes have to be released. You can't launch a show in that window. You have to finish the show in that window. So, of course, we have MobLand wrapping up right now. Although I don't know how that works because it's wrapping up on June 1st. So I'm not sure how that works. But, of course, a lot of shows wrapped up. The Last of Us just wrapped up. The rehearsal just wrapped up, which is probably going to be qualify for Emmys for sure. I think the first season of the rehearsals was nominated for a few Emmys. So yeah, you see a lot of shows wrapping up. And of course, on top of that, a bunch of shows get released, all as binges, all at the last minute to qualify for Emmys. Maybe there's got one good performance, or maybe it has some element that might potentially get a nomination. So that's the first part of it. Second part of it is it's the school season ends. A lot of people are watching movies. This is the summer season for movie watching. So I think for all those reasons, it just becomes a dead spot on the calendar. And yeah, we notice it here on the podcast too. It's usually difficult to find anything to talk about during the summer. Apple TV, this is the part of the reason that I talk about so many Apple TV shows on this podcast. Apple TV just puts out content regardless of what the calendar says. They just keep putting out content, and they actually have some things coming out this very week. They and in the past, by the way, the first season of Silo was a hit for us a couple of years ago, and that came out right now in this window in June. And we also talked about Hijack, which is very popular on the podcast. And last summer, we did Presumed Innocent, which was turned into a hit in the summer. So Apple seems to take this opportunity to maybe put stuff out when the calendar's a little quiet. So it's probably a good strategy for them. I believe Ted Lasso also launched in the summer, the first season. July, we start seeing the pulse picks up a little bit, but it's pretty slim pickings here in June. What is the school schedule out there, actually? Because your summer is upside down, but when is the long break for your family?
The long break is over summer, so that's just starts just before Christmas and then goes through all January. Yeah, so I think the school breaks about 6 or 7 weeks, and usually offices and most business people take at least a couple of weeks around Christmas, New Year's.
And that's when you went to Japan, right? Your family?
Correct. Yeah. So we went to Japan. Yeah. So I took an extra week or two, I think, and all January we went to Japan, which is winter there. So yeah, we went from
interesting
searing temperatures into below freezing temperatures for a change.
Yeah, this is our school break, and it lasts for about 3 months almost. So it is. Yeah, but it's and of course when everybody goes back to school in September is also when all the season starts. The TV season begins, and yeah, so September is packed to the rafters with new shows. But the summer is quiet spot, which is odd. I have to say it's a little bit odd because I figure there is enough downtime at that point for something to take off, right? So anyway, maybe the calendar will change over time.
So 3 months off. So you have to occupy your daughter for 3 months without structure.
Oh my God. We have camps. We have week camps that we're doing. Like she does a Lego camp for a week. She does the town camp for a week. She's got a private school nearby that has a really incredible camp where they can basically take like classes all day and all these different. They learn how to golf. They learn how to, do archery. They get to swim. They have performance arts classes. So it's a yeah, anyway. So that's like a couple weeks, and that's expensive, by the way. So it's only a couple weeks. We can only afford a couple weeks, but yeah, it's a lot of work to keep these kids occupied that whole time, and expensive. It adds up at all those different camps.
Absolutely. Yeah. My wife's a school teacher, so she gets the holidays off, but the last thing she wants to do is look after our kids
Of course.
unpaid. So yeah, it's all about structure and yeah, private, yeah, lessons and we don't have camps or summer camps like you guys have, but we do have yeah, kids club and that kind of thing that we need to use to keep sane.
Of course. As she's gotten older, she's more dependent hanging out with these different friends. So we take turns, like picking them up and dropping them off and keeping them occupied in between these different sessions and different activities. So it's, it's what you got to do as a parent. It's just,
Absolutely.
it's just part of the process of keeping yourself sane and trying to keep a little bit of personal time. And that's part of what I do this podcast for. So I can meet people like you, Darren, who have similar interests. It gets harder and harder
Well,
as you get older.
I look forward to this hour a week for sure.
This might go more than an hour, but I'll try to time box it as best I can. Okay, brief rundown of what is to come this month. Some very important things are coming this month. So we kick things off. June 4th, the first thing on my agenda is this new comedy series, Stick, starring Owen Wilson, Apple TV, of course, providing a lot of this content this summer. And this is rumored to be the next Ted Lasso. So I'm not a huge golf fan. I am not a huge Owen Wilson fan, but I do like a lot of his stuff. I'm all for a light comedy that is heartwarming. I'm a big fan of Ted Lasso, not season 3 of Ted Lasso, but a big fan season 1 and 2 of Ted Lasso. So if you give me those Ted Lasso vibes, I'm on board. Curious about this one, and that's coming on June 4th.
Well, I'm a big Mark Maron fan, and I see he has
yes.
a fairly large role in this.
He does.
So yeah, I saw a trailer last night, and it looks promising, possibly quite formulaic, but yeah, if Owen Wilson hits, he's usually pretty funny and pretty enjoyable. So yeah, looking forward to checking it out and maybe following it through.
I'm definitely sampling it, but we'll see if we follow through on that. Then on the 6th, we have on Hulu, I believe, Predator, Killer of Killers. So this is an anthology around the Predator character, executive produced by Dan Trachtenberg, who's now running the Predator franchise and had that very successful movie Prey a few years back. And his sequel is coming this November, but an anthology. It's a binge, so it'll be available all at once. I will definitely sample this as well. It's hit and miss with these type of animated anthologies, but curious to check it out for sure. Any interest in this, Darren?
Well, I was a big fan of Prey. I thought it was a fantastic reboot or whatever it was. It was almost advertised as not a Predator film.
Right.
And yeah, fantastic. I loved how it was set in the time before Europeans came to, or just about that time Europeans came to America, and the lead actress, I don't know her name, but she was brilliant, and the fact that it was voiced in an ancient language was really cool. So yeah, I'll definitely check this out. I'm a big fan of Predator.
Yep, I'm curious to check it out myself. And I do like these animated anthologies, mostly because, hey, if you don't like one, you have 5 different or 6 different directors. You might like just one of them. For me with anthologies, if I like 2 or 3, out of the whole batch, that's a win for me. So it depends on, if you expect 100% batting average, you're probably not going to be satisfied. But that's part of what I like about anthologies is just like, hey, if you don't like this one, you might like the next one. Okay, on the 7th, this is an interesting one that just came up on my radar. Sona and I just discussed this on the podcast. She went to see Good Night and Good Luck, the George Clooney production on Broadway, a very hot ticket. This thing's been breaking box office records week in and week out. I think the most recent week had over $4.2 million in grosses. It's like a record. It breaks its own record every single week. And it's a limited run. It's actually ending this week. And the final performance, or one of the final performances, are going to be live cast on the 7th on CNN and on Max for everybody internationally. So if you're in the US, I don't know if this is going to run more than once. So set your DVRs and for CNN at 8 o'clock, I believe, on the 7th, on Saturday. And if you around the world, if you don't have CNN, you probably do actually. But if you don't, on Max, it will also be live streaming. So this is something that if you've been wanting to see this, you've been hearing about it in the headlines, and I'd like to see this production, well, you get a chance to see it live cast on the 7th.
That's very interesting. So it's live from the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not, you won't be able to watch it on replay again. You got to get there at the time.
You know what? That's how they're advertising it. I would not be surprised at all. Just like Netflix has these live events, which are very popular, by the way, but then they are available to stream afterwards. I wouldn't be surprised at all if maybe on CNN it is a live cast, but on Max, I have to assume that Max is wanting this to be part of their catalog afterwards, right? So I have a feeling you'll be able to stream this afterwards.
Yeah, because that sounds really cool. I'd like to check that out, but I don't know about time difference and
that
exactly. Kind of thing.
I think that's part of the reason it has to be available as a stream, because around the world you obviously can't live cast. Me and my wife actually, I mean, it's working. Me and my wife are definitely going to we're going to watch this, right? So they got us sucked in. Although afterwards they'll probably be like, oh, we could have watched it anytime. But there's something about having the communal experience, I guess.
Yeah, it's like live sport.
Right. Exactly. On the 12th. A new series. I don't know if this is available in Australia, by the way, or where it'll be available. I will keep my eyes out for any of our international listeners. But there's a new series coming to Sci-Fi and also Peacock here in the United States, and it's called Revival. And this is based on a very popular comic book. And this is a story that's been told multiple times in recent years, and pretty well. It is this idea that the dead have come back from the dead, but not the zombies, not the zombie story, but where people come back from the dead as themselves, like basically as versions of themselves when they died, and how it disrupts the lives of the people around them who've potentially dealt with their passing, and now they have to deal with this new situation. And there was a very good French series called The Revenants, and that was remade in the United States as The Returned a few years ago on AMC. And this is basically a very similar story based on a comic book, which is very well reviewed. And it's called Revival, and it starts on the 12th. Oh, by the way, there's an Australian series called Glitch, I think, that has a very similar premise. I don't know if
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen the original French one, but I've seen something like that where a whole town was flooded.
Yes.
And people would come back. Is that the series?
That is, I don't know if you saw the English version or the French version, but that is exactly that. They live next to a dam, and the town was flooded, and then some of the people who've passed on come back as themselves, basically. And if you like that idea, there's yet another show that's similar to it. This one, apparently, the person who comes back, or the primary character that comes back, was murdered and is not aware of who killed her. So there's a whole murder mystery around her return, and presumably the killer probably wants to cover up the crime as well. So I hear the comic book resolves very well. A lot of these shows oftentimes don't have a good resolution. So I guess if this thing survives more than one season, we may get a satisfying conclusion to this one as well. And like I said, this is on Peacock and on Sci-Fi in the United States. I don't know how that is available overseas.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I'm not sure.
On the 13th, Son and I will definitely be discussing this. Also on Apple TV, Echo Valley, from the writer, creator of Mayor of Easttown, a movie about a mother played by Julianne Moore and her daughter, Sydney Sweeney, who's come back home. She's gotten herself into some trouble. She's accused of a murder. And then, like, the lengths a mom will go to protect her child echoes perhaps of the movie Mother that we discussed here on the podcast a few months ago.
I saw a preview for this and it did look interesting. Yeah, those two actors are pretty captivating. So I can't remember what streaming service I saw it on.
This is Apple TV, actually.
Apple. Okay. Yep. No, that looks good.
And that's a couple weeks out. If you have Shudder, on the 17th, Shudder has an original series which looks very entertaining. I should say the series is called Hell Motel, about a crew of documentarians or TV crew that goes and stays at this motel. Notoriously, there was a satanic ritual, and everybody who was there on a particular night was murdered. And in this series, these people get picked off one person per episode, and we try to unravel who the murderer is. A slasher movie with some satanic elements, but some comedy in there as well. So this looks like fun for a niche audience. I will probably sample it. I don't have an active Shudder subscription, but Darren, if the reviews are good, I will reactivate my Shudder subscription and I will share it with you. So maybe we will discuss it here on the pod.
Oh, yep. I'm down for that.
On the 22nd, two shows come back that I think are interesting. The Gilded Age on Max and The Buccaneers on Apple. I have not seen any of these shows, but I do want to bring it up because The Gilded Age is on my to-watch list. It's from the same creator of Downton Abbey. It's set in New York City at the turn of the century, previous century, and it has to do with America during the Gilded Age. Also stars Carrie Coon, who just had a big breakout by being in The White Lotus. Part of the reason I'm really interested about this is I find this particular period, the Gilded Age, a fascinating template for what's happening now when you consider that I think personally, I feel like we are entering or maybe even in a new Gilded Age. And I think that the show has an opportunity to explore potentially contemporary themes through this prism. Anyway, if you're interested in the Gilded Age, two shows running concurrently throughout the summer covering the topic. I am 2 seasons behind on the Gilded Age, so I probably will skip this third season as well. But it is on my to-do list. Someday in the future, me and my wife will sit down and watch 3 seasons of the Gilded Age. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years.
I can't say I'm interested in these period dramas with the big
I didn't think you'd be. I don't think that would be up your.
It's not my thing.
I didn't think that would be your cup of tea. For me, like I said, it's more about the kind of historical corollary to now rather than in general liking these historical dramas. The next few ones I think you may be more interested in. First of all, Ironheart is the new Marvel series on the 24th. I am not a huge fan of the Ironheart character as it was introduced in Wakanda Forever, but I'm sure it'll be a big deal. It's another Marvel show, and it's been 3 years since that movie, so basically reintroducing this character. And it is a fun idea to have someone build their own Iron Man armor. Marvel's been a little hit and miss, but I liked Thunderbolts, so I'll have to see if they can continue their current warm streak. Let's not call it a hot streak. Let's call it a warm streak.
No, especially not for the TV series. They've been
That's for sure
downhill, haven't they? So yeah, there's some big rock to push up a hill for people to get on board with that. Especially, I was not interested in her character at all.
I did not like her character.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever at all.
Yep.
So, but it feels like they've held off releasing it. So maybe they've worked some kinks out because 3 years is a long time since that movie.
It also is, I mean, but it's kicking off the new cycle. So I think that they've held off because there's plot elements that tie into other Marvel properties. But regardless, I do agree. I need to be motivated for sure to even sample this, but we'll see. But one day later, the final season of The Bear, something I'm very much looking forward to. And that is will definitely be covered here on the podcast. Are you all caught up on The Bear, Darren?
I'm not all caught up on The Bear. As far as I'm concerned, he's still stuck in the fridge. So I need to.
You're a whole season behind. Wow. Okay.
I'm a whole season because I really love that show. Even though it's quite stressful watching each episode, I was a big fan. So I'm not quite sure why I haven't gone back to it. But yeah, this might be the kick that I need.
Here's your opportunity to binge season. And you should, by the way, I very much liked the last season. There was some very negative takes on it. I thought it was very good. It has some of the absolute best episodes of the show ever. It does feel like it was always intended to have only 3 seasons. So it was this revealed in some of the interviews later that they split it into two seasons, and it very much feels like that. So it might be the right way to watch it is three in conjunction with four, since it really feels like everything in three is just going to roll over into four. I was not as down on three as other people were. As a matter of fact, I think there's two or three episodes in there that are perhaps the absolute best episodes the show ever produced. So, but it might be more satisfying to watch three with four right around the corner. So this is your chance. Here you go, Darren.
Yep. No, I want to.
Your motivation. Also on the 25th, a new week-to-week series called Countdown on Amazon Prime, very much going for the Reacher audience. We have Jensen Ackles here, who's been on The Boys for the most recent season of that as well, and is coming back for this most recent, the final season of The Boys as well. But this is a conspiracy thriller. There's someone gets killed in broad daylight in Los Angeles, and they're trying to prevent a nuclear bomb from detonating somewhere in downtown Los Angeles. This looks pretty fun. They just had the trailer for it last week. So I'm all in favor of action conspiracy thrillers. So I'm looking forward to this one. This is not anything I'm going to be covering week to week on the podcast, but would be fun to watch in the way you watch Reacher, I think, kind of the similar vibes.
Yeah, you had me at Reacher. I'll give it a shot.
There you go. And on the 27th, we have two big premieres here. One is Apple TV's Smoke, which is based on a true story about a arson investigator who's pursuing a serial arsonist that's killed many people in California and is partnered with another arson investigator. But it turns out this arson investigator, the prime one, the most famous one in the arena, may very well be the arsonist himself. I've not spoiled myself with the real podcast, but I may listen to that podcast in conjunction with this show. And this is from the same people, same star, same creators that made Blackbird a couple of years ago on Apple TV, which was a very successful miniseries. Did you ever see Blackbird by chance?
I did not know, but I saw the trailer for this Smoke. It looks promising, but could go either way for me. I don't know.
Yes, I agree. I don't think the trailers are that good, but I'm more interested in the talent involved. So I'm curious to see to sample it on the 27th.
Yeah, Taron Egerton's always great, and Journey Smollett.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I've seen her in, but I've seen her in something, and she was really good.
She was in Lovecraft Country. I liked her very much in that. And there's something else I saw her in as well. Can't remember. But there was something else I remember looking her up specifically because I'd been impressed. And of course, also on the 27th, Squid Game, the finale of Squid Game as well, which I know you're behind on, right?
I have not seen the new season. No, absolutely loved the first season. Didn't want to spoil it for me. Which I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I might have to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because I liked season two, but I didn't even discuss it here on the podcast because it is literally just, I think they were intentionally releasing, and they released the two seasons pretty close together, releasing season two. They were going to say, this is part one of season two and part two of season two. Instead, Netflix just branded it as season three, but they're only 6 months apart. So I think that the intention was always like part one and part two, and that is exactly how it is. I mean, you literally end the first set of episodes from back at the beginning of the year on a cliffhanger. So this is once again another one of those situations where you may want to watch the two together. I thought it was pretty satisfying. There's some really good twists in season two. I don't think this show needs a season two, to be totally honest. But I did think that what they did with season two in general was pretty good. If it had ended there, it would have been very unsatisfying. But of course, we're getting these final batch of episodes. So I'll reserve my judgment till then.
Okay, that's good to hear something positive about it because, I mean, it was such a phenomenon. I mean, everybody watched that first season. You could just chat to anybody about it, which was so fun. Yeah, okay, I might give it a shot.
All right. So out of that list, what jumps out to you the most?
I like the Sydney Sweeney one, and I like Stick as well.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to sample Stick this week, and I'll probably have a review for it next week. Okay, we're going to get into the episode, but did you watch Mountainhead by chance?
We did. Yeah, sat down with my wife and my brother-in-law last night to watch Mountainhead. I was a bit mixed on it. I really enjoyed the Succession vibes and the way they talked. the characters were fantastic, but they were so disgusting and unlikable
Yes.
and reminded me of children trying to
Yeah.
one up each other, and just the way that they spoke, it was relentless. The references to the Roman history or to all their different past histories that make them what they are today, and just these buzzwords that they say
Yeah.
and this
Mhm.
next level they're trying to get to. I thought it was really interesting, but I thought it should have gone somewhere else, perhaps
Yeah.
somewhere more climactic than where it
Yeah.
went. Um, but I did like that everything was happening outside, and what was happening, what was real, what was fake, and the fact that you don't know what's real and what's fake, and even
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
know.
Right.
And they just whatever suits their agenda, they bring to it. But yeah, I like seeing Rami. I thought he was really great
Yeah.
in it, and the other guy, the Venus character,
Yes.
um, I haven't seen him in anything before, and I
You
thought
saw
he
him in
was
we just talked about it and now I can't remember the name of it. With Julianne Moore, and she married her
May December.
May
No.
December. Yes, yeah. He's the son that she interview. He like has a band and she interviews him at the bar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
he kind of
Yeah, he
steals
was
that scene.
really good.
He's like in one scene, but he's really good in that.
Right. And he was just such a disgusting character, whether he's
Yeah,
like Musk-like or
yeah,
amalgamation of all the
yeah.
worst traits of these tech billionaires. I mean, he was horrible, but he played it so well.
Yeah. Yeah. He was very entertaining. I did not like this. I thought this was pretty
Oh,
lazy,
interesting.
honestly. Yeah. I just found that like I didn't think it went anywhere. I'm not gonna just bash beyond that, but if you want to look at my letterbox review, I reviewed it on letterbox and was not very kind to it. But I was
Okay.
check out my letterbox review for my very negative take on that.
Okay, I will. You're not often negative on things like that, so yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I was pretty negative on it, but I was but yeah, there's a tease for people to go check down my letterbox. I'll put the link in the show notes in case anybody wants to read it. But I could talk about that for more time, but let's not, because we want to talk about the beast in me. God help the beast in me. In this most recent or final episodes of season 1 of MobLand on Paramount Plus. Very popular as far as we can tell, but has not officially been renewed for another season. So maybe they're negotiating currently. Before we get into general thoughts in this particular case, maybe we save that for the end because I have very mixed opinions of this episode. I did like some things very much in this episode, but I had a lot of I have a lot of questions. So maybe we'll walk through it a bit and then we can give our final thoughts. The way the episode kicks off, I thought this was really one of the best scenes in the whole show, by the way. It kicks off with Kevin having this monologue with this his rapist, basically now killed, obviously at the end or over the course of the last episode. This was such a good scene. I think Patty Constantine gives a really good performance here, but it is kind of crazy that this is coming so late in the show to me because this is all of the psychological context that I needed to understand in a way how this family functions, right? And you have Kevin saying that, he tried to be a good father to Eddie, even though he knew at some foundational level that Eddie was not his. And in the same way that, he had a happy childhood, but then Maeve ruined him. Then he watched this happen to Eddie too. All of this is really interesting. It kind of shows you where he feels that he's been betrayed by this family. You see his psychological wounds. You see how Maeve has one generation after another, distorted and ruined these men. And it's really fascinating. And he's telling this to his rapist post murdering this guy. So it's like he couldn't have this conversation with him, obviously, when he was alive. Although maybe I was thinking that could have been an interesting twist where the guy comes in to console him last week. He has this whole heart to heart with him and then shoots him in the head at the end. But what did you think of this first scene?
It was really cool. Yeah, I agree. It was a great way to start the episode, and I kept thinking that the whole show could have been better.
So much better. Yeah, I totally agree. Like
um,
I literally was watching this scene played out and go like, wow, this could have been the show the whole time.
it was
But
a cracker of a scene.
yeah,
So good, so good. And you can just feel for the guy when
yeah,
he knows that the son is not, he knows, but he doesn't know. And you know, you've been in that situation in real life when you think a partner has cheated on you or something, or someone's keeping a secret from
yeah.
you and you don't know, but you do. And you try to fool yourself into believing what's best for you, but deep, deep down, you know that it's going to be horrible.
Yeah, and with a couple of revelations here, he mentions that he always knew that Eddie wasn't his because of what happened in prison. And then later on, he's talking to Harry and he says to Harry, "Did you know what happened to me in prison?" And Harry goes, "No, I don't." And he just says, he always hoped that Eddie was his. But so, I mean, they don't go into more details here. And I actually would like to know more details. But do you think he was injured in some way where he thought he couldn't have kids? Because he only has the one kid and it's not even his.
Oh, wow. I didn't actually think about that. I thought it
Because
was
when he's
interesting
saying
that.
that it happened to me in prison, do you know? And Harry says no. They're obviously not talking about when they were in the reform school because he definitely knew about that. He was the one who basically reminded him of it, right? So he's talking about what happened to me in prison, which seems to be a separate episode. And that is the reason he thought that Eddie wasn't his. And then he just thought he had this miracle baby at first, but deep down inside knew it wasn't. So I'm like, what was that? That must be really physically traumatic if you think you can't have kids anymore. Like that's pretty severe.
Jesus, yeah, that's heavy. Is that something that they're leaving for the next season? I don't know.
Maybe there'll be more to say there. I mean, the fact that he brings it up to Harry and he doesn't explain himself in that moment, I assume they're going to elaborate later. I assume.
As if his trauma is not enough, that there's
Right,
something else.
exactly. Physically traumatized. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Mm.
And also because you assume it's a sexual nature, then you think about like, wow, like what is that? What could that possibly be? The mind reels to imagine how horrible that must have been for him.
And
All that is to
maybe
say
it
that
has
he
to
is.
do with
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Maybe it has something to do with Conrad because he was pretty pissed at Conrad later in the episode.
I mean, yes, I think he's pissed at Conrad, but in that case, maybe there is something that happened related to Conrad, but yeah, that seems to be much more about like this son finally having a really frank conversation with his dad.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have during when we hear "The Beast in Me," do my Johnny Cash impression, but like during that, when we have that, the music finally plays at that moment, we see this intercutting of, the cleanup of the bloody scene at this guy's house, and of course, we also see the people who aren't busy, the remainder of the family being shuffled off to a safer house, I guess, somewhere else. And also, we see Kevin and Harry heading out on their mission as well. So, what did you think about this table setting here at this moment?
Yeah, well, this was all set up last week, wasn't it? So we
Yeah.
know that Harry's going to meet the lady lawyer. Just on that song, that Beast in Me, those vocals, the
Mm.
clarity of those vocals are quite incredible. I mean, they're just so clear and they're so separate from the actual music. It's just, it could be no one else that sings that. You couldn't mistake it for anyone else. And it's like, I'm not a massive Johnny Cash fan, but it is very interesting to hear that and how stark it sounds. Yeah.
You should listen to those, the American recordings, one, two, and three, which he all recorded at the very end with Rick Rubin producing,
Mm.
and mostly just recorded in his house. And some of those songs are become iconic, like the his cover of "Hurt," for example, won
Yes.
a Grammy for song of the year. I think the year he died. But those are definitely worth tracking down, and they're all covers and really interesting reinterpretations. Although "The Beast in Me," basically is very much just true to the spirit of the original song, but it is an excellent song. We go from that song into another song, which of course is the Starburster song, which I do want to shout out one last time. It's the last time I can shout it out, but I want to put it all out there so people can track this down. This is Fontaine's DC from Ireland. And Starburster is the name of the song. Romance is the name of the album. Just came out last year. This is the MVP of the show, as you've said before, Darren. Everybody out there watches the show. And I think that a lot of people out there go like, man, this show is so great. When I see that MobLand title card right over London, I get chills down my spine. I'm like, everybody, it's not the show, it's the song that's doing that. I just want to let you know you've been incepted by this song. It's brilliant.
It gets me so pumped every week.
And by the way, this song is a song about a panic attack that the lead singer had when he was about to get on a train in London. So it is interesting that, thematically we have this panic in this song, right? That's the theme here of a panic attack. And The Beast in Me, of course, is or maybe not, of course, but is about dealing with addiction, which, of course, Nick Lowe is dealing with through that song. And Johnny Cash, of course, multiple addictions that he dealt with over the course of his life. But it's interesting, this, these people who are selling addiction and this anxiety, which honestly, the song sells the anxiety more than the show. Everybody seems to be pretty chill for considering it could be chainsawed in the next 15 minutes. That everybody's been pretty relaxed on the show. Maybe it needs a little more of the panic that's hinted at in this song.
Oh, Maeve, she's always so relaxed, isn't she? Even in prison.
So relaxed. All right. So then we find out the mole is the lawyer. It's O'Hara, which of course was on our suspect list, top of our list last week. Very suspicious when Harry called her right away and kind of seemed suspicious. He has this conversation with her, says, give me no, just yes and no answers. So she was working with Richie as far as the drug trade goes, but she was not the one who leaked that Archie had been killed and the Antwerp location. So it looks like Maeve was indeed the one who leaked, just as Conrad had accused her of last week, not only Antwerp, but Archie. I'm trying to think about what is the chess move for Maeve to reveal that Archie's been murdered. She goads Conrad into killing Archie and then tells the cops where Archie's body is buried. I think we spend a minute on whether Maeve is a good strategist or she's just a total chaos agent. What do you think?
Very strange. I took it as someone else spoke about Archie because it couldn't have been Maeve because, as you say, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even though it was hinted at earlier, I don't think she confirmed. She did confirm. We saw it spread the word about Antwerp, but I don't think we saw her do Archie, and I don't think that's been confirmed anywhere, so maybe there's someone else. But yeah, okay, lady lawyer who's barely been in it. She's the mole. Fine.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm like, of all the people you can make a mole, this is the least interesting option you could have got.
Yeah, exactly.
Practically. Then there's another pretty terrific scene, ruined by one thing, just for one thing, but most of it is terrific. I love, this is not Richie. He has not come back to do the finale. A lot of times, for example, if someone's a producer on the show, they'll do like the first and last episode for, in some cases. Not in this case. I don't actually know who this director is, but it's not Guy Ritchie. But I say that not to ding it, but to say that this is a really interesting shot selection where you have Patty Constantine's Kevin talking to Conrad, and you can see them like reacting to each other in the mirrored reflection of their faces, which I really like the way that this shot was done, especially when you see Pierce Brosnan's face as Kevin finally just lays it all out and just tells him, like, you've been losing it for a long time. We are trying to keep this together. You are messing it up. Unfortunately, I do not think that he's right, that when you come out, you're going to come out into my world. I don't think that's going to be the case, in my opinion. But it is good to see Kevin finally trying to take the reins.
Yeah, again with the Succession vibes that he thinks he's going to be the boss now, but I don't know. I think Conrad's still got a lot of power that old Kevin is underestimated. But yeah, I agree with you. The mirrored reflection was brilliant, fantastic, and it was a really intimate
Yeah,
conversation,
exactly.
especially with the information that Conrad comes out to goad Kevin. My God, just disgusting. I mean, what a father to have.
And I like when it says to his dad, it says to Conrad, "Who made you? Like you made me. This is why I'm this way. But who
Yeah.
made you what you are?" And then once again, these are all things I wish the show had introduced earlier, because thematically, the idea that this is cross generational trauma
Mm.
is, repeating in this cycle over and over again, and this toxic relationship, the hatred between the child and the parent, but then that bond between them that they can't step away from, that they're trapped in. It really interesting, and then explains why you're like, why don't these people like kill Conrad, like shoot Conrad in the head right now in this moment, and you'll all be better off. And then you see this codependency and this toxic dynamic that the parents controlling Kevin and the children in general. So if this was laid out earlier, I think it would have been a stronger season of TV, is my opinion. But I'm glad that they finally got around to it.
And is there opportunity for like a prequel or a flashback to see Conrad as a child and how who did make him? His parents, as you say, the intergenerational thing.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to see that, but depending on how clever the writing is here. But it is. I mean, that episode of The Last of Us that I liked so much literally deals with that. We actually have a flashback where a parent-child relationship, and you see the previous generation, and you see that the anger and the abuse was worse then, and then seeing this dad say, you know what, I'm doing better than my dad. It was even worse for me. From generation to generation, we hope that maybe we could just do a little better, right? And not in this family though, but in general. I think that's always our aspiration, and something that would be interesting to explore in a show, especially a criminal show. I think a show about criminals. Okay, the thing that ruins this episode is when we have Conrad saying, like, is she still tight like she was when I was her? And then doing his like impression of Cannibal Lecter with fava beans. I'm like, what the
Oh, the
hell
tongue.
is going on? What the hell is going on here? My God. You had to go and mess it up, Conrad, didn't you? This performance not working for me. But anyway, it was good
It's
until
just
then.
so absurd. I think it just goes full circle.
Yep, yep. And then we see Gina and Bella. Another good scene. See, a lot of good. See, we needed more of these interpersonal scenes, and I think the show would have been much stronger. And by the way, there's plenty of runway. This is a long season. There's a lot of dead spots in the plot,
Mm.
and a lot of this stuff could have been spread around. But I liked Gina and Bella, where you see, inferred in this conversation that Gina sees something in Eddie, that there's still some kindness in him, that he still has some aspect of that earlier version of himself. And Bella like pines for that he was my boy when he was younger, and how Maeve broke him when he was a teenager, and that Bella saw it happen and couldn't, wasn't allowed to or couldn't prevent it from happening. And there's no going back. She's lost faith that her son can go back to being that version of himself. That this is another good scene, I thought, in the show.
I'm trying to think of this scene and it's not coming to me. So I'm sorry. I
I
think
guess
it
it didn't
just
stick to you.
went all the way past.
You fast forwarded through it. No, I'm just kidding.
But finally, I think Bella, she's doing a bit more, which I think
Yes.
she's great on screen. She's a good actress. Give her more to do, yeah. And anything with Eddie, I've just got my high hopes with Eddie as a character, and he just keeps disappointing me. So, yeah, anything that reveals a bit more of him, I'm into.
I mean, just this conversation potentially, just that he was something else, even if it's not even his performance. I think it gives you, it gives a character an opportunity to be a little bit more than he's been on the show. Okay, so Maeve has gotten a phone and has Eddie come and meet her at prison. And here's another great scene. This one, I'm being sarcastic. This is a great scene, but I do like Eddie's reaction to this whole conversation. Very importantly here, by the way, I don't know if this is the case in the UK. I don't know what the civil liberties laws are there, but in the US, if you go to a prison, you talk to somebody on the phone, or even that, when you call them at prison, it's like this call may be recorded, right? So all those tapes come out in court, like the actual conversations they're having. I do think that that is the case as well, because when Kevin is talking to his dad, Kevin goes, "That thing, I took care of it." Like he's not saying out loud, that he's committed a crime. He's talking around it. Maeve is like, "All right, these are the people you got to kill. You got to kill this person, then you got to kill this person." And Eddie, I like Eddie's like looking around like, he's like looking for his way out the door. He's like, "Are you talking to me? I don't know this woman. I don't know who this is."
His reactions in any of those scenes that he has with Maeve, even the last couple of episodes, his reactions are golden. He does his best work, just some strange looks just off camera. What? I took it as Maeve has pull, so she can just say whatever she wants, and she can pull the tapes or something like that. That's what I took it as.
She's got magic. She's a witch. She may be. It's actually a possibility. But of course, she only lays out the fact that, "Hey, Eddie, you moron, I am setting you up like it's me and you forever." Ride or die, 19-year-old with this 80-year-old lady. Like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, she's like, "Don't worry about that. We could be a couple. I'm not your grandma. Not for real. Let me tell you all this out." I'm like, what is going on here? She's been lusting after this 18-year-old the whole time. Like, what is going on? Like, holy cow.
Oh, it's so good. And as he walks out of the interview, he's got this ridiculous puffer jacket on, this faux fur, and he's just looking, going, "What did I just understand just then?" The demons of my past have come true.
This whole scene is just so preposterous and so silly. I mean, and I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be comedic, but it is really comedic. Especially my favorite part, like when Eddie was desperately trying to get out of that conversation. He wanted one of the guards to come over and interrupt at that moment just to get him out of the conversation. She's like, "No, look at me. Come over here. These are the 10 people you got to kill today, okay? You start with Harry. That's who you kill first."
You don't think this is supposed to be comedic? I mean, it just feels like they're just swinging for the fences sometimes.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's supposed to be comedic or not here on the show.
Yeah, that's trouble, isn't it?
Kat speaks with Sarafina looking for Harry. She tells Sarafina, "You're smart. You know what's going on with your dad. He was a big fish in a small pond, but now he's out of his depth and it's time for new management." And, Sarafina takes this in, and there's some symbolism here at the end of the episode that maybe she's contemplating that maybe she is ready for some position of power. I only bring this up because the idea that Conrad was a big fish in a small pond and now is in London and is maybe in over his head and had brought in some cachet from being a big fish previously makes sense to explain how they got to this point, because I don't see them being very strategic, to be honest. I think this is so I have a lot of question marks as I watch the show, how these people have been successful at all. So that kind of makes sense. But then in the very next scene, we have Tatterswall talking to Alice and says that Conrad, no, not that he was a big fish in a small pond. We're going to take down one of the biggest criminal masterminds this city has ever seen in its history. And I'm like, okay, he barely been in London for the last few years, or is he one of the biggest masterminds of the century? Like it seems like these two scenes right next to each other say two contradictory things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think just because someone says they're the biggest, I don't necessarily believe it, because I need to be shown that, and I haven't been shown that in the show.
For sure. And of course, he tells her all this and then gives her $100,000. I'm not sure he gives her the money because he kills her a minute after that. I guess the $100,000 is for the guy who's killing her, I assume.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And poor Alice, right? She actually tried to do her job. Sure, she planted evidence, but I guess the morality of this show, she deserves to die. I'm not sure how that plays out, but there's definitely other people who deserve to die more than she did.
And Isn't it ironic? And he goes and sings Alanis Morissette as he walks away.
Then Richie goes and has the meeting with O'Hara. She's told Harry the whole situation, that this is how she meets with Richie. They meet one on one, etc. And I do like that Richie's not an idiot, although he's not as smart as we thought he was, but he's not an idiot here either. And he wants O'Hara on the phone talking to Harry to feel out that conversation. I like the efficiency that Harry has. And also that, if O'Hara's not a great liar, she doesn't need to be, because she basically is saying everything as it's supposed to play out. And this is very much, by the way, this show has talked about chess a lot, and it doesn't feel like a lot of chess up until this point. But this does feel like a chess game. We're actually seeing the end game here, and we don't know, like, basically you have a pawn on the board and you have two kings that are in at risk of going to checkmate, and you don't see the bigger play. So I think Harry is playing chess here at this point. And for the one time in the show, maybe ever, it's that chess metaphor plays out here a little bit.
Yeah, I like seeing Richie again. It doesn't look like we're going to see him ever again.
Not
So it
again.
was good to see him in these scenes, even though if it was with this lady lawyer. But yeah, you say that they're playing chess, but you know exactly what the play is.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost as if you're supposed to think, oh, maybe Richie is smarter and the lawyer is double
Yeah.
crossing
Mm-hmm.
Harry.
Yeah.
But when they say the locations, they state the locations of the lawyer's office and the safe house, you just know exactly how it's going to play out, and it plays out exactly how you think it is. So I'm not sure if it's trying to be tricky or trying. It definitely didn't throw me at all.
I completely agree. I predicted everything that happened, with the explosion. I even predicted that when they were going to her office, and I'm like, this is a pretty low rent building they're in. I'm like, oh, they're probably going to blow out those windows. They couldn't afford to do it in a fancier building. Even the location kind of give it away. But I'm like, they're going to blow up there. And I also thought there would be an explosion I didn't expect a grenade, but at the other location as well. So yeah, even the mechanism at which they caught these guys, I predicted. The only thing that was kind of where the chess game was which side was O'Hara on, because either way, that's kind of what was clever about this as a chess game. Harry set her up in a way where either way it would work, right? Because if she just said what he told her to say, she is giving them the actual locations of like where the family is actually staying. And then, but like I said, that's where the stupidity of it comes in. Yeah, they showed up there, and potentially if they were 5 minutes earlier, or if they had more manpower or something, they could have potentially killed off those family, or at least captured them. Which is where the stupidity of it comes in, because it's like, you just need more men. Like, that's all you need, and you could win this war. But it's all convenient. O'Hara is on Harry's side, but that doesn't help her because she gets shot between the eyes just as well.
Yeah. Look, I did like that no matter what she said, Harry is
Yes.
the
Mm-hmm.
smartest person,
Yeah.
and Harry is in control of it all, which we know that to be true because he's just so good. Yep, good to see her. Did Harry shoot her, or
She
did
did.
Kevin shoot her?
No, he
Yeah,
shot her right behind between the eyes.
yes.
Kevin shot
Richie.
Richie.
Yeah, so cool. And also, as an aside, the old mate with the remote control blowing up the office.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it was
Another.
so funny. He's just become such a comedic character through the series, which is one of my favorite bits. And I think he gives himself the nickname 9 Inch. Did you notice that? Not sure where that comes from, but he's just so funny.
He might be overselling. He is the comedic relief here in the show. He's in this marbled alleyway with this little radio receiver, and of course the signal doesn't work.
It's like when you don't point the remote at the TV back in the old days. It doesn't work. So you have to just stand there and point it right at it.
Or the old remote controlled cars where if the antenna wasn't fully extended, couldn't actually get the thing to run. By the way, they had to call out to Silence of the Lambs here. They have another reference here when Kevin says to Richie, "Look at me, look at me," and he shoots him as he does. That's from Heat. De Niro kills that psycho guy that turned on him.
And was that the actor that was in Silence of the Lambs? That was in Heat as well.
You're right. Yes, it is the same actor. Interesting connection there. All right. While Kevin and Harry are actually putting this war to bed, Maeve calls Conrad. She tells Conrad, I'm trying to teach you something, Conrad. Mother Nature's a bitch, and so am I. I'm like, okay, that's what we get. And, I've been testing you, Conrad, and that's why you love me. And you passed. You passed. I mean, she's not playing chess, by the way, even though she says chess all the time. She's not playing checkers, even, I don't think. But all she does is have a lot of irons in the fire. She's like, well, if Richie makes it, he has a thing for me. I have this thing. I'm trying to get Eddie on my side. I'm trying to, in more ways than one. I'm trying to keep Conrad engaged, and this is why she doesn't work for me as a character. It's not just the performance and everything. It's also the fact that I just don't buy that this would work. Like if someone's going and like playing every angle, how do you trust somebody like that at all? But this is the most contrived character for me, the Maeve character.
Yeah, the fact she's just so random, and also she doesn't care, and yeah, this will work if that doesn't work, and she's just like whatever. But it's great that they both got their own phones in their jail
Of
cells.
course
So
they
it's
do. Yeah.
actually,
And they got each other's numbers somehow too. I don't know sure how that happened.
of course, yes.
And they're not in the same. It's not even like they got it like at lunch. Someone slipped them a note. They're not in the same prison. So somehow they got their phone numbers to each other. It all worked out, and it all happened almost instantaneously. They've only been in there for a day. All of this is hilarious. But Conrad can't quit her, I guess.
I just think we wouldn't be the men we are today if our wives didn't constantly test us.
That's true, but I mean, I'm not sure if I could tolerate being tested in this particular way. I try to kill you every day, and if you dodge the knife, then you're adequate. But I'll just try to
kill you.
What do I have with this knife in my hand? You don't need to know about that. Don't worry. Harry eventually meets with Kat. That's the other meeting he had on his agenda. And he asks her to respect his loyalty, if nothing else. And she's absolutely right in telling Harry that family is a bunch of loose cannons and they're off the ball and they're going to screw this up eventually. And they're going to take you down with them. But then she threatens his family. And he goes, what do you mean when you say my family? And he's like, well, I'm not only talking about Conrad and his folks, but I'm talking about Jan and Gina also. And he doesn't like that at all. But he also says that he's really loyal. And finally, he says it, because I'm thinking, like, where's this loyalty coming from? He's saying that he's basically ride or die for Kevin. I'm like, okay, I needed to see that fleshed out in more detail here. I can't believe him having this loyalty for Maeve, for example, who would like stab him in the back. She literally has asked multiple people to murder him in this one season of TV. So I'm pretty sure he's not loyal to her, or he'd be an idiot to be. But it looks like he is there for Kevin, which I buy, but I needed to see that fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, I got the sense right from episode one that it's all about him and Kevin, especially with the flashbacks of when they were in juvie together. It's all about their relationships. That's why I thought Kevin was the mole or the leak, because that's where the drama is. If he double crosses his best friend and if Harry loses trust in Kevin, that's where the meaty drama is, I think, because he loves him so much. I mean, they're brothers, effectively. Yeah. They're family.
That is more compelling for me. Once again, I think we have teased out here multiple times a more compelling version of the show. That is one where we're in on that he's there for Kevin. He's supporting him. He is trying to get him to rise to power. And he knows that without him there, the family's going to go down in flames. He could very well die. Or if he inherits the family business, he won't be able to run it himself. So Harry's there for him when he's ready to step up. And seeing that as the foundation of the series would have worked for me. And I didn't see enough of that. There was way too much of the focus being on Conrad and Maeve and their psychodynamics, which I just didn't care. I mean, there's a version of this where I would be really vested in which one of them wins. I just didn't care. And I guess maybe that's why this show didn't work for me a lot of the time.
Yeah, I've got to agree, but I do like this cat character. I think she's got a
Yes.
lot of
Mhm.
potential
Yeah.
for season two. I like her private jets. I like the way she dresses. I like how powerful she is. And now she's an enemy of
Yeah.
Harry, so that
Exactly.
could be really interesting.
Yeah, I do agree that she's going to be a bigger part of season two, and I definitely look forward to that. All right, another really good scene. Once again, digging into this trauma in the family past. We have Kevin and Bella finally talking about, and we see that, of course, I forgot to bring it up earlier, but over the course of this episode, we see that Bella's plot has worked. Her dad is on TV trying to, this video has leaked, of course, and now he's trying to defend himself and obviously probably going to get into some serious trouble, minimally lose his position, if not get criminal charges as well. And all this head scratching this whole entire time. Why has Bella had this thing for her dad? What is going on? The revelation, again, very late in the season, that this is all this childhood trauma, the rape that she suffered by her dad multiple times when she was younger. And this is not only an intriguing way to give her motivation to her plot, but it binds her to Kevin, right? Like they now have this shared trauma from their youth. And it's really touching to see them together. And it's like, why did this show take this long to get to this point? I just very confusing.
I agree. It was shocking. It was so shocking. But why do they drop it so late? They could have been
Yeah,
leading up to this. We were wondering what is this side plot about,
right.
and this is what it's about: her to get revenge from childhood rape. Okay, okay, right. But geez, it's I just with this show, I'm just so frustrated sometimes. But yeah,
I,
that was
I
a
agree.
touching scene, as you say, really touching when he grabbed her hand and just
Yeah.
realized they've got this shared connection, which is just so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I've got hope for this show.
And I mean and we don't even know the details of this, but for all we know, Conrad's might have been a sexual assault against her as well. And I can imagine a version of the story revealed later that Conrad's like, my son can't give me, a child, a grandchild, but I can, right? And you can imagine him taking that by force. And once again, something that would bind them together, and another thing that would make Kevin even more resentful of his father, right? But we don't get that here, and I don't understand why. Like this adds. It's not only just another plot element; it binds these characters more closely together. And I don't know why we had to wait for this happens multiple times where we don't get this until this last episode of the season. It's very odd.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. Like if Eddie is a product of rape
Yeah,
too, I mean that will make his story way more tragic. That
right.
could possibly still play out.
Yeah, I mean, he confronts his mom, and when this is another sad scene where she's like saying, "No, you're my baby. You're not." He calls her a slag, and it's like horrible to
Oh,
her.
straight away. Yeah.
And then he like tries to, she tries to, repair things with him, and he tries to choke her out, and then he gets interrupted by, the rescue party that comes in to get them out of the house.
It was a full on scene. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and then once again, interesting dynamics that are only getting revealed here very late in the game. And now, and see, by the way, it actually makes things that happen earlier in the season and some of these weird dynamics between the characters more interesting because you understand that there's all this underlying resentment. But why couldn't we know that? It goes back to that metaphor I mentioned of Hitchcock saying it's better to have the bomb under the table. If you know what the stakes are, and we as the audience knows, even if the characters can't have the conversation for whatever personal reasons they can't have those conversations, it brings tension into those interactions,
Mm.
as we're watching them, as opposed to us just scratching our heads here on the podcast being like, what, why did he do that? Why is he,
Mm.
why is she, why didn't she leave him already? There's so many questions about why anybody does anything they do here on the show.
And if we had the information prior, then we could almost expect or anticipate these scenes. And then
Right.
when they come, they're satisfying as well as surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably there's more emotional weight to them as well. I mean, some of these scenes, I
Yes.
think, in a different context, that when they like people have not been able to say something to each other and then finally do, it could have had like a really emotional reaction for me. And instead, I was like very like pragmatically going like, "Oh, that's an effective scene," but it wasn't hitting me emotionally because I wasn't emotionally vested in the first place. So I think a lot of these things were mistakes in the way they doled out this information. And then we have Gina and Harry meet, and Gina's like 100% right about everything she says to him. Two things I thought about this scene. One is like, I like what he says to her that now you have my complete attention. And he also, I think, has a collapsed lung, possibly, after she has stabbed him with this knife. I mean, is Harry on the spectrum? Like, I have actually wondered as I'm watching this show, whether it's in the performance or maybe because they're not giving him enough material and he's trying to sell it. But I've always wondered, like, how is Harry's behavior in all these scenes is very odd, but especially here. Like, what is going on here with Harry and his reaction to this whole thing, including being stabbed?
So cool. Yeah. Oh, oh my God. He stabbed right there too. That's not an easy stab to
Yeah,
recover from.
not in the shoulder
Interesting
muscle.
that you mentioned on the spectrum. It feels like a lot of these shows that we're watching, like Murderbot or perhaps The
Yes,
Rehearsal as well, there's this theme of people on the spectrum and people masking and people, yeah, trying to get through life and just being exact, focusing on this one thing, and they can't do anything else because it just freaks them out. Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. I didn't think about that with Harry, but it does makes sense that he doesn't really care. He cares about his family. He doesn't really love them. He doesn't show them any love.
right.
He just needs to get them from safe house to safe house. Keep them safe. Kill this guy and keep moving forward with his plan. But he seemed like he was at a loss there with a knife sticking out of his chest.
It's like, oh, that really hurts. It really is like a murder bot reaction to this whole thing.
Yeah, you've got my attention, Jan. Now, what are we gonna do here?
Oh God. I guess there's one more way to keep her around, right? She's going to feel guilty at least about stabbing him through the chest for a little bit of time. If you were going to end the show, by the way, it would be interesting that she lashed out and killed him after all this, like surviving all these near murders, that she accidentally kills him. There'd be some irony to that. But no, he's coming back for another season.
We need him. God, if we didn't have him, what would we have?
Well, what we have is at the end of this very episode, Conrad and Maeve failing upward, yes, yet again. Maybe this is how they've gotten to where they are now, and including Conrad, like in prison now, surrounded by everybody cheering him on, while we hear "Sympathy for the Devil" from the album
Oh.
"Beggar's Banquet," of course. And that's the end of the episode. But what did you think about this whole performance here? Conrad's in prison. It's like grabbing his crotch, like, yeah, I did it. I did it. Like, he didn't do nothing, but he's going to get the credit for it. That's why I wonder if Kevin's actually going to have a reputation he thinks he's going to have as the leader of this organization once Conrad's back out again.
That's right. Well, Conrad is the greatest mob boss London has ever seen. They
Ever.
tell us. They don't show us. They tell us that.
They tell us that exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, just ridiculous. Ridiculous. He's just absurd, isn't he? I can't say it even enough. And but also sympathy for the devil. Has there ever been a more overused track
I know. I
at
know.
the end of a movie or a TV series than this track? It's just like, oh, okay, they play that. Wow, whatever.
They should find a deeper cut. I do agree. There's many great songs that you can find, even by the Stones, if you want to go with. But of course, this song, "Sympathy for the Devil," as a cliche, but that's not the first cliche in this show for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Maybe they're telling us something in that.
Hey, "The Beast in Me" is not a cliche. That's a good one that they dug
Hmm.
up there. So yeah, I mean, so now we get to the end. I think we've probably spoiled our general opinion on the season, but I guess I'll just ask you now. I didn't want to spoil it right at the top. What did you think in general about this episode? How would you rank it? How do you think it finishes the season and sets up season two?
I think it's definitely one of the better episodes. I think the season finished really strongly
Yeah.
for this type of show. I think episodes 3 to 7, it was a tough slog, and I
Yes.
almost gave up.
Me too.
Um,
Me too.
yeah, at least I was looking forward to it, and there was surprises, there was left field ideas that came at us. So sure, bring it on. Ending with Tom Hardy with a knife in his chest is great. I assume this will. I'll be shocked if this didn't get a second season, just
Yeah,
because I hear it's so popular and
right.
people love Pierce Brosnan's performance. People
Insane,
love it,
absolutely insane.
Victor. I don't. People do. Maybe people can write in or email you to
Yes,
say
do.
if they do, please. If you love it, we'd love to know why.
Yeah, you know
um,
what? I wanted to get the rest of your thoughts, but I'm going to put that out there right now. Need some introduction at gmail.com. We would love to, I would absolutely love to hear the take that this is a good performance by Pierce Brosnan, and even more so by Helen Mirren. I mean, she's obviously going for something. The Pierce Brosnan performance, I think, is maybe miscalculated. With her, I think she's going for this. I just don't think it works for me. But if you guys have different opinions out there, I would love to hear it. And Darren, I'll forward you all the responses.
I would really like to hear it. Yeah, I'm very interested.
Once again, need some introduction at gmail.com. Anything else you felt about like how the season wrapped up and what you want to see in season two?
Well, I want to see more of Kat. I want to see
Mm-hmm.
Tom Hardy fixed. I don't want him to die. Obviously, he's not going to die. More Jan. I love Jan.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see Kevin really
Yes. Mm-hmm.
get
Yeah.
that, feel like he's in that position of power, because I think he's going to have a big downfall, because I don't think he's going to be able to handle it. Obviously, Conrad and Maeve are going to get out of jail fairly quickly, I think, and they're going to cause some havoc.
Yeah. A few things I wonder if this is the case. I have a theory. Happens a lot of times with these shows where they're like, "Well, green light season one, but you have to give us a season one and season two, or even more. Sometimes you have to like outline multiple seasons because these streamers want content, obviously." And maybe that's the case because this really feels like that. Because for me, if I was structuring this same story as it was, the same pieces, a lot of this could just be done in the edit, to be totally honest. The revelation about like when Kevin kills that guy, that could have come earlier on. The context of this intergenerational trauma and how it's being passed on from family member to family member, that would be intriguing and would set up all these stakes for later on. And then you could imagine like Kevin's ascent. Let's say that this is the beginning of Kevin's ascent. Maybe that was pitched earlier in the season and it was structured that way. And then they had to break it up and then they had trouble making the story accommodate two seasons. I kind of wonder if that's the case. Even as it is, I think that there could have been some of those other reveals that could have come earlier, like the reveal about Bella and her dad. We would have been more on her side when she was just running out with people trying to assassinate her. You're like, where is she going? Why is she doing this? We would have been more involved and concerned for her. And then, of course, even if the Kevin reveal came later, it would have bound them together more tightly and it would have been thematically richer because you could see these different people dealing with this in many different ways. And in a lot of ways, just how these men are unable to deal with this and how that is the subtext to all of this. It's strange to put it so late in the season. But the last thing I think is a huge mistake here is that they didn't kill anybody of consequence, right? And you could have done exactly the same person. You could have had O'Hara have a close friendship with Harry and that they could bond over the fact that she is their fixer in public and he is their fixer in private. So they have this respect for each other. And in the end, when he's got to shoot her between the eyes, you're like, man, he's like killing a future version of himself. He sees where he may end up someday by killing her. She is like completely inconsequential when she gets killed off here. It has no weight at all.
I like that. That's a very cool idea.
And yeah, it could have just been more interestingly done, or even like the other no-name henchman. We literally only learned this guy's name like this week, and I forgot it already.
Oh, Kiko.
Kiko, yeah. And they introduce him as like, yeah, he's like a cool guy. Everybody's just like, yeah, everybody loves Kiko. And now he's dead. I'm like, well, you know what? If all you needed to do was have like Harry mentor him over the course of this season so that, when he dies now, it has some weight to it. But man,
That's
even
so true. It had
even
no
the
weight,
people
did
they
it? It was
killed,
like we didn't care.
none. Didn't even remember O'Hara's name until we talked about like, we're like the lady lawyer. I only wrote her name down this week.
Remember her name.
Because she got killed. It's the only reason I even bothered to write her name down this week. Yeah, this is very, yeah. I mean, like I said, that's all self-inflicted. And there's no, I mean, the actress is in this season. She's not coming back next season. You had her on set. It would be pretty easy to have made her a more interesting character in general for me. You're going to kill somebody off in a season of show. You better build them up before you kill them off. Like, what's the point otherwise?
It's very true. One thing that I'd love to see next season, but I've been wanting to see it all this season, is Eddie actually doing something as
Yes.
a mobster, something. But I think I need to give that up because I just don't think they're going to do it.
Well, I mean, what could be interesting, and once again, I feel like this is another thing that happens with these streamers. It could be that this was the pitch, and then the first season ends up being like a setup season where the pitch is it is like The Godfather, right? It is the father who still has the reins of power and won't give them up. And maybe like the mom here in this case, the Maeve character is intentionally not allowing that to happen, even more so, or forcing him to maintain control. And the siblings now trying to make a play for power. And you see Kevin saying overtly, I'm going to be in charge when we leave. We see Sarafina with the warrior Sarafina character looking at it at the very end of the show, where maybe she wants to have the power. And so now in season 2, you can see them now playing another chess game where it's like who will end up in control at the end. And of course, Harry wants it to be Kevin, but Eddie is in this contention as well. And Maeve has this weird relationship with him that maybe she wants him, if she's going to give up the reins of power, maybe it's Eddie that she wants to push to the lead. So that is maybe what we see in season 2, and it could have been even season. They could have introduced that in season 1, to be honest. But now we're getting season 2. Maybe we get a cleaner storyline.
Yep. And for Eddie to take that power, he needs to have sex with Maeve. And
unfortunately,
the power
that may
couple.
very well happen. She might be pulling out the cocaine out of her cleavage, and there might be a little more quid pro quo there. So that's the end of the season.
That's it.
There you go.
It's been a ride.
It's been a ride. It's been fun. I have to say that I probably would have quit on this show if I wasn't covering on a podcast, and if it wasn't fun to talk to you about it, Darren. I have enjoyed our conversation.
Excellent. Yep. Likewise.
Oh, yeah. So next week, by the way, we will be having a mid-season check-in on Murderbot. We'll have 5 episodes at that point, so we will finally catch up on that show. And really the way we should be catching up with it, because there'll be enough to talk about with 3 more episodes under our belts at that point. The following week, Darren, I think we will be doing a rewatch, or I will be doing a rewatch, and please feel free to do so, for the 28 movies, because the following week after that, we have the new 28 Years Later movie coming to theaters all over the world, which I think this, similar to Final Destination, a series of movies that was never like huge, but this suddenly feels like culturally, this is going to be huge, this movie. I think the trailer has been seen by, it's like one of the 3 or 4 most watched trailers in history. So seems like there's a big appetite for this franchise has emerged over the generations. And we are 28 years past that first film, shockingly. But and that is coming
Epic,
the week after. So that is
can't wait.
And then maybe we'll be covering Spoke here on the podcast. Maybe you and I will be doing Spoke.
I'll give it a watch.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes once we start watching it. All right, Darren, enjoy your day off. Enjoy your family.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Victor. It's been fun.
I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.